Welcome back, everyone. Let us now welcome the next session of the day entitled Malaysia Innovation Series, How to Zig When the Market is Zagging. Join me as I welcome Gopi Ganesalingam, Vice President at Tech Ecosystems and Globalisation, MDEC, Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, and also Rizal Shah Amat, Principal of the Global Entrepreneur Xchange, together with a panel discussion between Karthik Siva, Chairman of Global Entrepreneur Exchange, Erman Akinci, the co-founder of Common Ground, Dato Ngei, the Managing Director of Feruni Ceramiche, Nadhir Ashafiq, co-founder and Executive Director of TheLorry. With this, I pass it over to you, gentlemen.
The Global Entrepreneur Exchange is a private and independent coalition of entrepreneurs. It's a platform created by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. The goal of the Global Entrepreneur Exchange is to equip, educate, empower, and enrich entrepreneurs all around the world. And we do this through advisory services, boot camps, consulting, content, mentorship, guidance, and coaching. The Global Entrepreneur Exchange was created to address a massive challenge faced by entrepreneurs. At one level, entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of the global economy. Country for country, if you were to see, they probably contribute anything from 60 to 70% of a country's GDP and employment. They also contribute anything from 35 to 45% of a country's exports. But the irony is also this: entrepreneurs often end up failing. In fact, according to Forbes and Bloomberg, 8 out of 10 entrepreneurs fail in less than 18 months. Now, this is a staggering statistic. At one level, entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of the global economy. At another level, there is a significant chance that an entrepreneur will fail because the odds are stacked against an entrepreneur. And in fact, the Global Entrepreneur Exchange, or GEX, was created to address this massive challenge.
Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Rizal Shah. I'm a principal at GX, or the Global Entrepreneur Exchange, a company created by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. I wanted to start today's session with a question. How do you help entrepreneurs, business owners, and C-suite executives succeed while creating a business that matters? Well, at GX, that's exactly what we do. And today we're kicking off our latest initiative, the Malaysian Innovation Stories platform, with a panel session called How to Zig in a Market That's Zagging. Without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to our moderator and panelists.
Hi, my name is Karthik Siva. I'm delighted to introduce Innovation Stories. Innovation Stories is a platform and initiative created by the Global Entrepreneur Exchange to showcase and celebrate journeys and stories of innovators from Malaysia. We have 3 amazing innovators. We've got Dato Ngei, who is the CEO of Feruni. It's a company that has completely reinvented the tile industry. We've got Erman Akinci, the CEO of Common Ground. It's a co-working space platform. And this is a rapidly growing co-working space platform. in a market which is fairly stagnant and extremely competitive. And then we've got Nadhir Ashafiq. He runs this very interesting company. He's the co-founder of TheLorry. It's a regional logistics platform. So I'd like to say welcome to Innovation Stories. Thank you for doing this. Uh, I'd like to very quickly remind all of us of the subject that we are going to discuss. The subject is this, or rather the theme of this session. It is how can you zig when the market is zagging? Or to put it differently, what does it take to become disruptive as a business? So that's really the theme and subject of this exchange and session. I'd like to dive right into it with the first question to Dato Sisi. Dato Sisi, this is my question for you. You set up Feruni over 10 years ago.
Yes.
And you have had a very interesting journey. This is a commodity. You described it as a sunset industry. I think this is even beyond the sunset. It is an industry which is, almost is probably close to midnight. And you've had the courage to not only get into this industry, but to completely reinvent this industry through a unique and disruptive branding idea. And you also transformed this industry with a unique and interesting culture that you've built at Feruni. So could you share your journey and what you did to make Feruni such a strong and admired brand? I am one of your admirers as well. So we'd love to hear your short story here.
Yeah, thanks, Karthik. So I think what actually lead me to this innovation that want to make a big change, I think it's because I've been in industry for quite some time. That during 2009, I'm asking myself, looking at the business that I see that is very competitive, and there is no future, and something is very boring. And to me, there's no more excitement that to how to continue to run the business. That's why I actually come up the idea of in 2009. I asked myself, can we do something different, or that can be solving the problem for the industry? And I say there's always that how actually we can solving the problem in the industry, and how actually we can giving a different outlook and different experience to the customer. One of the very interesting in the past, I remember that the couple, when they step into the showroom, they're always when they walk up, most of the time they actually both the husband and wife will argue. I said that, hey, how we can actually improve this instead of arguing, both of them actually can walk up with smiling face and actually they enjoy it. So this is actually how we come up about the whole concept of can we start something very different from this the showroom, from the product, and from the way that how we serve our customer, that we want to bring a new experience to the customer, and at the same time helping them to solving their own problem. Because you see, one of the main challenge in our industry is that a lot of people, they give you a piece of tile, okay, let you to imagine yourself. Karthik, this is a piece of tile. You imagine how it's going to look like after you spend 5,000 or 10,000. Wow, there's no one or very minimum people that can actually imagine that. So this is actually something that we try to solve, to build a very experiential showroom that can let customer to see what is actually the outcome. Of course, at the same time, we're actually using the technology to help us to let customer to see or to visualize, and also have the actual ambience to let them to see what they're going to get by end of the day. I think this actually really help customer to actually reduce the fear, because everybody imagination is the different. Like I mentioned, the wife and husband, they're always imagination different. So now they can see the actual ambience that we see, wow, this is something that we're going to be get by end of the day. I think through this journey that we always emphasize of customer, what problem that we want to solve, at the same time, what experience that we want to give it to the customer. I think this is actually this entire journey from the showroom, from the product, from the people, from the actually the price point, how we can do it in a better way. This is always that's the entire journey that we actually keep brainstorming it, and how actually they make things different. Yeah.
Very interesting response, Dato Sisi. You've used the word experience a few times in your response. We are actually living in an entertainment economy. Everything is entertainment. News is called, today it's newstainment. Information is infotainment. Even education is edutainment. That's why it's often said that in an entertainment economy, the currency is experience. So I think that's a rather powerful way of setting your brand apart from your competitors. Let me go to Nadhir now. Nadhir, you've had a very interesting background. I think you have the entrepreneur DNA probably in your bones. You experimented, like a mini entrepreneur in your college days, in your university days. You tried a few things, they did not work out. And then you created something called, I think, Globalize or something. You made a few missteps that did not take off. You've tried many experiments, and then you finally pivoted into creating this regional logistics platform, TheLorry. So, could you explain a little bit about yourself, your journey, and what made you create TheLorry?
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for actually giving that brief background. That's actually all true. A lot of my missteps and experience. But actually, as I was listening to the theme of this particular panel, which is when people zig, you zag, right? So actually, my whole life has been about that. And in fact, if I study my own, if I may, stock investment philosophy, right? I like to buy when people sell. That is zig when people zag lah. So I like to collect whenever people wanna dump. That kind of mindset and mentality. So in fact, when people and my friends were zigging, I was zagging in the sense that they were becoming bankers, they were becoming young professionals at the age of 25, 26. But I told myself that entrepreneurship is what will give me the most satisfaction, due to my previous endeavors. I thought that, creating something from scratch and delighting people is actually what I like and love most. So I guess that's why I zagged in the personal scope, right? So we have the zig and zag in the personal scope, which is everyone wants to become young professional, wants to earn their bonuses. I want to become entrepreneur. So that's the first zigzag. The second zigzag is definitely on the formation of TheLorry itself. There's a lot of ways that we could actually start the company. We could actually just go on and start a traditional trucking company, right? We saw certain opportunities. We saw certain inefficiencies, but we zagged by saying that, hey, let's create a platform instead. Let's go with a more asset-light route. Let's try to replicate. At that time, Grab did not exist yet, so they were called My Taxi, right? So let's try to replicate what My Taxi is doing in the ride-hailing space, in the taxi space, and try to see whether we can do the same in lorries. And I guess that became the TheLorry as we know today. But most recently, and a story that I like to tell, which is there are, in this particular space that we're in, which is e-commerce deliveries or e-commerce last mile deliveries, you know, there are a lot of players, many players that are competing in a very red ocean market, which is small parcels, right? So the Post Lajus, the JNTs, the GJAXs of the world, they compete in that very competitive environment, and they have built the network, they have built the hub infrastructure, right? Of which a small player like me will not be able to catch up, right? We probably have to raise millions and millions of dollars, or it will take some time for us to get there. So we zagged in this particular industry by saying, okay, if everyone else is looking at small parcels, let's come up with a solution for bigger ones, right? So furniture, you know, sofa, home appliances, refrigerator, washing machine, or even beanbags per se, something that cannot be delivered using motorcycles or even cars, we will do it. And we have created a space within ourselves, a niche, if you will, whereby this is something that platforms demand, merchants also demand it, and we are actually performing really well in terms of transit times, in terms of cost as well to our customers, and that's why I guess we have gained a certain market share in this particular space. So yeah, a couple of zigzag stories for you.
Erman, thank you very much for doing this. You set up Common Ground in 2017, and the co-working space is a pretty competitive category. Some say even saturated. But in spite of that, your business has managed to grow and expand pretty impressively. Could you explain briefly this journey, and what's your secret sauce here? How did you manage to pull off this kind of expansion and growth in a scenario like what we're facing today?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a crowded space. I would probably, maybe veer slightly away from saying that it's saturated, because I guess what we fundamentally believe is that there is, I think, an ever-growing demand for flexible office space. And I think that, probably now accelerated tremendously by what has happened during sort of the COVID and the pandemic. So, we see a world where there's a lot more demand. We see, more companies looking for options in the space. And as a result, I think we continue to be optimistic and bullish on the sector. But it has been a sector that I think has been met with some ups and downs and some trials and tribulations, especially over the last few years. It definitely doesn't help when sort of the more notable brands and businesses in your space are going through some trouble, and I think a lot of their challenges get reflected onto you. So that definitely doesn't help the matter. I think we've been fortunate though overall, and we've been able to kind of push through and get growth because of a number of factors. I think the largest being the way that we structured the business. I think what a lot of people may not understand about how this works is that their initial interpretation of how co-working operates is that you rent a space, you fit it out, and then you sublet it to to smaller users, which is, I think, in essence true. But I think where we've been able to build a business that has been robust, that has had the ability to scale quickly, that has been able to weather sort of the ups and downs, is that we approached it from an asset light angle. And I think if you're going to use the word asset light, if you're going to use the word secret sauce, it's probably going to be that. The fact that, rather than lease from the landlords, we actually partner with the landlords. So we go in and we'll work with a landlord, on a JV model, and then work with them to produce a space very much akin to how the hotel industry works. And every landlord now is kind of changing their mindset and realizing that having co-working is a key element to their overall building offering. And so through that we've been able to continue to grow. and work with them. And I think it's a symbiotic relationship. It works well. For a landlord, typically they would see by working with us, much more robust yield per square foot than they would get from rental. I think that's the key to why we've been successful.
Very interesting. Let me start with Dato Sisi here. In your opinion, Dato Sisi, what makes Feruni truly competitive, different, and unique compared to the other players in the market? And my second question is a quick one. If you describe Feruni with one word, what would be that one word? And obviously, my question to Nadhir is going to be very similar. So let's start with you. What makes you unique or special?
Okay. Yeah, I think actually very similar what Nadia said. I think we actually, like Nadia said, actually we create our own space that actually nobody going in. Because tiles is a very competitive market and everybody sell. Today you sell $1, then tomorrow people sell 90 cents, 80 cents, 85 cents, actually it keep coming down. And we don't have our own so-called own manufacturing that we need to actually depend somebody to OEM for us. So this is actually something that we ask ourselves, how can we make difference compared with our competitor? So as I mentioned that early on, literally we are very much that because our focus is on how they actually create the experience for the customer. So start from what actually the customer really need. So when you ask, like Nadia or Karthik, do you actually really mind to pay another 100, 500 more or 1,000 more when you can have something very different in your home? So at the end of the day, we find out that for the consumer, it's not about the price. It's about what actually the value that I can get, right? So that's why when we actually see that actually the space that actually nobody taking care, everybody looking at the price, we're looking at the design. We're looking at how we can make a mesh for the customer to build a very unique design for their own dream home, and it's very unique to them. So at the end of the day, to them, I'm paying a slightly more, but I can get something very unique and tie with my own lifestyle. So that is something that nobody actually is focusing. So while our competitor is focusing on the price, we are focusing on the experience to build a nice design and unique to the individual and give them a totally different experience for the entire buying journey. So this is actually how we this actually to me there's a big difference. One is selling tiles, one is selling the experience. I think that is a significant difference. And the second question that you asked about one word, probably that one word is about happiness. Because to me, if just imagine if you get the unique design that you want in your home, that you actually very enjoying going back to your home. Yeah, so this is something that I can feel that when customer really enjoy something, they're happy. Enjoy something, they will really feel happy. So to me, is how we can actually make every one of our customer happy. So the word is happiness.
You said two very important things. Firstly, you said you don't sell tiles, you sell lifestyle, right? If I may headline, let's say your response. And your second response was equally insightful. You said one word that describes you is happiness. Maybe what you did not say is this: if people are happy, they're actually willing to pay more, right? So people are not happy buying a commodity, for instance, right? That's why people pay a lot for very expensive brands. So that is truly an example of zagging.
No.
And let me go to Nadhir now. Same question. I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'd like you to get into specifics. What makes TheLorry unique, different, and special, in your opinion? And the second one is, if there is one word that you could, let's say, use to describe TheLorry, what would that be? Sorry for putting you in a spot.
No worries, no worries. If I would answer that, then the answer would be the people and culture. Definitely, it's a very important aspect of building a company. When I say people, not me lah, the people around me lah. So they are the brains sometimes behind the company. I'm just the mouthpiece, so to speak. What I wanted to say is, when we formed the company, we knew that building the right culture is the most important, right, aspect of building a company. So we do a lot of things to ensure that we hire the best people. First of all, we do have a colorblind policy. We do not look at any race, religion, or colors or whatever when we look at hiring. It's pure merit-based, and that's why we do have a very diverse, right, a very diverse team, right, not just in Malaysia, but also in the other countries that we do our hiring. By and large, our team is rather young. We can say our average age is within that 27 to 28 range. So I think the overall culture of the company, the overall mindset of the company is very young. We're all eager to prove ourselves. We're all, very excited to bring something different to this particular industry. And I guess what young people want is that decentralization, the empowerment, right? So I love to tell a story of how we do have fresh graduates, we do have younger folks that are given responsibility quite literally beyond their capability and their capacity at that time. But they have grown with the portfolio. And we can see that they are top star performers just by giving that responsibility. And they actually, how to say, appreciate that kind of opportunity. And yeah, I mean, people is everything. Like, it's the lifeblood of the company, and I'm very happy with the current crowd of people that we have. Of course, later on, once we're at about 130 people. Hopefully, once we grow more, then I will have to seek guidance from Dato CC to ask him more about how to deal with a larger and larger organization. Second question is on one word. I would say the word would be obsessed. In fact, it's ingrained in part of our culture. We always say that we're obsessed in delivering the best possible experience to our customers, obsessed in ensuring that our driver partners, which is our lifeblood as well, right? Our driver partners who are, our owner operators, they have a truck, they're driving with us, and these guys are our assets, right? They are very important to us. And of course, obsessed with self-achievement and the company achievement overall. We do have targets, and we hope that we can excel those targets.
Interesting, your choice of one word to describe your company, obsession, and if you really kind of look at most outstanding leaders, amongst, let's say, the top 5 attributes you might use to describe them, one of them definitely is obsession, without question. You can use a lot of different synonyms. Some people use the word meticulous. Some people use the word, driven, and so on and so forth. I like this choice of word, obsession. Let me get slightly more specific here. If I were to ask you what really separates or differentiates Common Ground from your competitors, you've got these very big 600-pound gorillas, the global competitors. Then you've got regional and local competitors. Then there are these one-off players in the marketplace. Now, what really differentiates you? And if I may ask, if you could use one word to define Common Ground, what would that be as well?
Yeah, so I think the way that I've approached it, at least, and if there's going to be one word that we try to live by, it's ecosystem. And the reason I say that is that's kind of the way that we've approached the differentiation and the value add. Not one specific item is that key differentiator that would, define us versus, let's say, a WeWork or, a JustCo or, even a Spaces. But there's a number of sort of key elements that come together and then really create what I think is a compelling offering for both the member side and the landlord side. I think more specifically, some of those things are, the fact that we are asset light. So, from a business model perspective, that allows us to be much more scalable. It allows us to be a lot more robust when it comes to, how we weather ups and downs and how we work with landlords. But then on the member side, we also have, some key elements in there that really differentiate our value proposition to our members. So if you are a member of Common Ground or plan to be, one of the things that you would, I think, notice very early on is the suite of software functions that we bring to the table. So you come on to Common Ground and there are there's member e-commerce platforms, for example. So things like if a company needs specific items to operate their business, they can actually purchase it directly from our platform through their company account, and that's open to all of their members of staff. So that can be anything from simple laptops to stationery to all of that, and they click one button and then it just gets delivered directly to their office, even to their home. So I mean that's been really powerful now during lockdowns, where our members have access to all the functionality that you would get in an office, because they can just click from their app, and if they need extra pens, if they need a laptop, if they need anything, they can just click on that and it just gets delivered straight to their house. And that's I think one of many functions and differentiators that we offer to people.
So if I were to paraphrase your response into a headline, you're pretty much saying that it's an ecosystem of factors. It's multiple factors, layered factors, which probably constitute your business model. And it's your overall ecosystem, which sets you apart. When you struggle and face big challenges, it's something that I've always experienced. You find that you're all alone. Sometimes when you're facing a big problem, most of your friends are on vacation and nobody's around, and all people with a lot of money suddenly don't seem to have that much of money, particularly when you have problems, right? So it's a very lonely job. And I'd like to ask a very specific question which pertains to, let's say, the current times, where we're facing this huge it's a medical challenge, it's an economic challenge, it's a business challenge, so it's a challenge it's a societal challenge. And in my opinion, it's also a psychological challenge. There's a lot of people, that are committing suicides, and there's a lot of people, depression, clinical depression has gone through the roof across the world, not just in Malaysia. Now, specific question is this: how are you navigating the current challenge, which is the pandemic challenge, which is far more than a pandemic challenge? It's a multilateral challenge, if you may. Let me maybe start with Nadhir here. How are you coping with it? What are you doing to mitigate it, manage it, and minimize it?
Wow, this is a big topic. First of all, I think we entrepreneurs, we're gonna lie to ourselves if we say during this particular pandemic, the past 2 years have not been tough. 100% we're gonna lie to ourselves if we say to ourselves, oh, we don't have mental health, or we don't have depression. We have to a certain extent. We have our down moments. It is pretty bad, I guess. At least for me, cannot go out, cannot release, really express myself. I'm stuck here in front of the laptop. I'm stuck here in my house. It feels very, the cabin fever is definitely setting in. But of course, not just me personally. The company. There's a lot more that we can do. Trust me, right? There's a lot more that we can do, and a lot more that we can actually achieve. But there's a lot of limitations as to where we can go. For instance, in Indonesia, we do have a rather large sales team, right? That is essentially going on the ground to knock on doors. But which doors can we knock at the moment, right? Nobody wants to meet us. So we gotta try a different way and different means of doing sales. But of course, entrepreneurs, even though, when we're beaten down to the ground, we always find a way. We always bertahan, we always lun, So how to say, we always find creative methods in order to solve the problems that we are facing at the moment, like the Indonesian example I just gave you. Of course, cannot meet face to face, then we go LinkedIn, right? Then we try other ways. We try social media ads, we try phone calls, we try video calls. Whatever that we can do in order to survive. For us, when the first MCO set in March of 2020. Nothing could run, right? Our house moving business, which is a segment within our business, but a rather small one, cannot operate at all, right? So people were trying to stay at home, not move house. So that particular division basically got zero bookings. But we became creative and we said to ourselves, okay, what was working at that time? So the only two things that we could actually potentially do. Number one, which food delivery, or number two, groceries. And we actually went into groceries and tried to help, I guess, Klang Valley folk to actually purchase groceries, which at the time were very, you got long lines. It's not very, safe for senior citizens at the time to go out and buy groceries. And of course, no vaccines at the time. So we actually went out and helped our Klang Valley folk to achieve this. So yeah, you in short, finding opportunities in crisis is actually an innate trait of an entrepreneur. We memang we memang have that ingrained in our brains.
I think a lot of things that you shared, Nadhir, would probably motivate a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs and also new entrepreneurs who are kind of struggling and trying to figure out what to do next. And I suppose your industry, like a lot of industries, is particularly vulnerable because your industry is actually about trucks, because who are you going to deliver it to? And it's like, when you look at the taxis, every time I drive out to buy groceries or to pick up some food, I see, tens and tens of taxis parked, with literally nobody, either hailing them or getting into a taxi. So I suppose the logistics industry is also kind of challenged. And you're right, it's also a big opportunity because I was reading that in the last 12 to 18 months, over 1 billion people globally have got online and have started to buy things online. Just imagine 1 billion new customers globally, and what that means to the logistics industry. So if there is one industry that can potentially take off like a rocket, even during these bad times, it's probably got to be the logistics industry. I'd like to now go to Dato Sisi here. How are you navigating this massive challenge? How are you coping? How are you managing?
Yeah, neither say this is something is big topic and this is a very exciting topic. I think firstly, probably that we need to actually setting our mindset right. I think as entrepreneur. So if you want to away of the challenges or problem, so don't come into this field. This is not the right space for you. So in a journey, either a pandemic or without a pandemic, we tend to have a lot of different challenges, especially that you want to create something very innovative, you want to do something different and you want to solving the problem, you will have even more challenges and problems. So I think first thing first, we need to set our mindset. It's not about the problem, it's about what actually the solution. So when every problem come, wow, that's good, then I have a solution to solve it, then eventually the problem will solve. I think this is something that we need to get our mindset always ready. When problem come, then actually finding a solution. So that's actually to qualify as an entrepreneur, this is something that you must have. If you this one you don't have, then you will be constantly that you probably that you live in the depression, because every day you have a different problem from people, from product, from customer. All I think this is the first mindset. And second mindset also we have to think about the business. Now I heard this story about the finite game and the infinite game by this Simon Sinek. So we have to think the business is not about now, it's about actually is an infinite. It's actually is not only about this 6 months or the next 12 months. That we need to actually set our mindset. The current problem actually is just current problem or challenges is just make us stronger and the better to prepare us for the better future. I think this is something that we need to set. Currently, probably that you're losing some money and your cash flow will be tight and all these things. That actually something that we need to get prepared and mindset and get ready. And the last one is always motivate me is when every time that you're facing that you can be paralyzed, you cannot move forward, ask what actually the reason that you start this company, and always go back to the purpose. Then that actually give me motivation to continue to run my journey. This is actually how I'm thinking of it, mindset. The second thing, thinking of the business is infinite is not a finite game. So and the last one is always look back the purpose why you want to set up this company.
Thank you. Those are, quite motivating, words for not only aspiring entrepreneurs, but for entrepreneurs that are currently stuck, I suppose. So what were some of your, let's say, 2 or 3 challenges that you had to deal with?
I don't know if 2 or 3 pop to mind directly, but I think one key one does. And I think that this is probably something that, anyone who is building something from scratch has come across in one way, shape, or form along their journey. And I think that this is one of the key epiphanies I had, trying to be an entrepreneur and trying to, build new things. And that is that, vision doesn't travel very far. And that's always been a challenge. I think that it's a challenge that you learn to work around. And it's something that I think first-time entrepreneurs and first-time innovators may not necessarily appreciate how difficult and how much of a factor it plays in their success. And what I mean by that, I'll give you one specific example of how that plays out. When we did our first venue, we were still raising capital, bootstrapping, and I remember we'd made the commitment on the space, so we were doing it no matter what. And at the time we were still hoping to raise a little bit more capital. So we spent a lot of time bringing investors to the space, sort of midway through the renovation. And we were also bringing a lot of landlords to the space. So showing them the venue itself before it had been finished. And in a bid to kind of convince them and show them what the potential was, we had printed out all of these 3D renderings for how each room was going to look like. And I think, out of maybe 60 or 70 meetings and tours that we did, I think we only got like 2 guys to be interested. And it was just a really bad conversion rate. And we were so, it was pretty demoralizing to kind of go through that. But what was really interesting wasn't necessarily that experience. It was what happened directly after. And we managed to raise the capital and then finish the venue. And what happened after was phenomenal. We had meeting after meeting with the exact same landlords and investors that had previously gone to see the space, and they were super keen to work with us. And they were like, "Hey, yeah, we want to do a space," or "Hey, we would like to invest." And we were, we were pretty shocked. We were like, "Hey, how come, 4 months ago we talked to you and you weren't interested?" And they're like, "Oh, we didn't know it was going to look like this, or we didn't know this is what it was going to be like." And that was pretty shocking because we did we spent so much time and effort trying to show them with images, with videos, with presentation decks, what it was going to be like. And nobody could see that vision. Even as much as we tried to express it graphically, in word, in numbers, people couldn't see it until they walked into a space and felt it, and then their perception totally changed. And that was a massive learning for me, because I was like, wow, you can see it in your head, you can see how amazing it is. It doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to be able to see that, and that's your biggest challenge as an entrepreneur.
Any successful entrepreneur knows this. Behind, in front of, and on the side of success, there is always series of failures which other people do not see. They just see the glamour, they see this Feruni, this beautiful experience, or they see, let's say, Nadhir and TheLorry going for Series B funding, and and so on and so forth, and they forget, all the challenges that are lurking around the corner and are also directly facing you. If I may ask, what has been the single biggest low point in your journey as an entrepreneur? Maybe let me start with Nadhir here. In this brief journey as an entrepreneur, what would define as your biggest low point or a challenge?
Okay, of course there were a few, but if I had to pick, I guess in our journey at TheLorry, which is 7 years now, in a couple of days, I think another 2 weeks, we're at 7 years. There was a moment of time where we actually were very close to shutting down, right? To shutting down, or not having the enough money in order to sustain our operations. So just to share that, of course, like any other startup, the revenue and market share and land grab is what we prioritize on, as opposed to profitability. So it's essentially that growth at all costs kind of mindset. And of course, that bit us in the back a little bit in 2017, where if the whole idea is growth at all costs, if you're not growing, how? Right? If you're not growing, means you're not actually playing the game, right? Means you're not actually attractive to any venture capitalists. So that was actually what really happened for us. We tried to meet 20 or 30 VCs, spoke to them, pitched to them face to face. This was in 2017, but really couldn't score a deal. And in fact, we had 2 major rejections, which really caused me to ponder and think, what's our plan, like going forward. We even had apocalypse scenarios planned, right? We said, okay, we have 5 scenarios. If let's say we cannot raise, then we will bring down the team from 30 to maybe around 6 or 7, and then maybe rebuild again. Perhaps we could shut down a couple of divisions here and there. It was not a pretty sight, right? So I spent quite a bit of time, peering over the horizon. At our office over there, we have a balcony, so I would chill at the balcony there and just look outside, just think about what's gonna happen to us, that kind of thing. But I guess that was the low point. But I guess we were, of course, there's like any Bollywood stories, Bollywood story. There's always the dip, and then there's the upturn, per se. So we managed to get saved. We managed to get saved by a couple of angel and family offices, and which actually resulted in growing even further after that, and we never looked back.
Fantastic. I'm sure that's something worth noting, particularly if you're an entrepreneur. The same question to Dato Sisi. What would qualify as your single biggest low point?
Yeah, I think this one is another mindset change that we need to have. If you want to become an innovator, that there will be tons of mistakes they're going to make. If you don't want to make mistake, just follow the traditional. Every day you do the same thing, there will be no mistake. I think this is something that we need to really get ourselves prepared. There's always a mistake or the misstep they're going to be taken, because we always try new things and we want to do things different. To answer your question, like Nadia said, that we have a lot of big mistakes that I've done. Probably there's one thing that I can share is about, I think we need to really follow our own pace, because I find that in one point of time that I want to actually expand my business in a much faster way, so that we continue to grow, building up outlet or the retail store, and even though in the overseas, beyond what actually we can manage, we just want to grow and grow and grow. So I think that actually one of the biggest mistake that I do is overexpand, and didn't actually manage it well. And we want to compare, wow, why they can go so fast, the other industry, why I can't go to so fast. I think that actually that make me a bit miserable, because we are used to be deliver the experience and what actually we want to do, as I shared just now. But when we actually go so fast, we are not able to provide what we actually supposed to provide. So this is something that is a big mistake that I want to share with you all, is just really follow the pace and what actually that you really are, and follow your heart. I think that is something very important to me.
Once again, very reassuring words there for entrepreneurs watching this. What were some of the missteps or mistakes that you made in this journey? And I'm sure you've made a few. And is there anything you would have done differently looking back?
Like a million things. I think that, you know, that is the journey, right? I mean, you make missteps every day, you know, and I think that it's about kind of learning from them. I guess that's the cliche, but it's also about recognizing them quickly, and then you know, remedying them just as quickly. But yeah, we've done a whole bunch of stuff. Like, you know, I could probably talk about it all day in terms of just, you know, stuff that we've messed up. You know, one of the key things I think is pace, and this is not just with Common Ground. This is with other businesses that I've been involved in. Pace is massive, right? Pace is massive in a world where you're reliant on other people's sentiment as well. You know, capital raising. I've been on both ends, right? So I've been in a world where people are, you know, almost throwing money at you, and then I've been in a world where, you know, people won't even pick up your phone calls. That I've seen, you know, from both angles, from the same businesses sometimes, right? So sometimes the business model is super hot, and sometimes the business model is just not as hot, and your success kind of is reliant on how people perceive that particular business or situation. And so monitoring the pace and the sentiment and making sure that you play those angles right is massive. And I've definitely, you know, made a lot of mistakes there, pacing that at certain times. You know, I mean, like even for Common Ground, you know, we were hoping to be out in market and raising capital. Actually completed the raising of capital midway through 2019, early 2019. And I think where we messed up there was, I think, you know, maybe due to lack of urgency, maybe due to, you know, lack of conviction, we let the process drag out longer than we should. And I remember, you know, talking to advisors, talking to bankers, talking to, you know, our board, and I remember saying, like, oh, you know, we need to get this capital raise away before we work the WeWork IPO, because I think we're going to be in a tough spot no matter what. If they manage to raise capital, then everyone's going to say, well, how are you guys going to compete with these guys? You know, they've got like so much money. They're like a $1 million gorilla, and they're just going to beat you down. But then if they don't, and it all, you know, goes belly up, then they're gonna associate us with them anyway, and they're gonna say, oh, well, why would we want to back that? And so, you know, my feeling at the time was, hey, look, we need to get this away quick. And I think a lot of people were like, oh no, let's just kind of go at the pace and move slowly. And I guess I didn't put my foot down enough, and it dragged. And I think, you know, a lot of the challenges we've had the last 2 years is a function of that, because I would have loved to be able to raise that money. I would have had a lot fewer sleepless nights if we had a little bit more cash in the bank. And I think we would have probably not gotten re-rated so hard, because, you know, I think that obviously that whole journey was a bit tedious to the multiples.
You still managed to do pretty well in spite of these challenges. Let me ask you this question: how important is innovation when it comes to your particular business? Let me ask Sissy this question. What has been the role of innovation in your business? How important has it been?
Yeah, I think earlier, I think innovation is actually the only thing that is make us sustain. If without innovation, I don't think that we can sustain our business. This is actually discontinuity that we need to do. And the second question is about the role of the innovation journey. I think that as a leader, as an innovation, that we always have to be thinking of. I remember that Karthik that you shared before in your strategy masterclass, you're sharing about what are actually the great reader compared with the normal one. Yeah, you actually interview all this actually the billionaire. What are actually the three big different thing they compare with other people? One is the standard. Second thing is about the energy, and the third one is passion, if I'm not mistaken. So I think as a role of innovation that we always think about, what are the standards that we want to set? I remember that when we build our showroom, you know that what we actually we are benchmark. We are benchmarked with the Apple Store, because Apple Store is actually what the highest standard about the customer experience. So I flew to US, I go to Fifth Avenue to attend, to go and see how the showroom to build to bring customer experience. So I think this standard is become one of the very key important. If you just compare with the Malaysian retail store, probably your standard is just be here. I think that the standard is very important and keep up. And of course, the energy to actually continue to have this energy to build, to actually to inspire myself and the team to go forward. I think this is something also very key. And the last one, of course, the passion, continue to actually to have a passion to do what actually we set 10 years ago, the purpose that we have. I think that is that's my journey, and continue actually still putting this always putting this in my mind. What are the standards that I want to set, and the energy and the passion that I want to do for Feruni and for the society as well.
Very interesting. Like basically what he's saying is the standards you set will determine the results you get, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with talent or education or money or capital or VCs. It pretty much boils down to what standards you're willing to demand from your business and from yourself. I think those are wise words. Now over to Nadhir on your take on
Sure.
this.
I think at the end of the day, logistics has been around for, well, since the beginning of time, perhaps, from the days of the camels and the horses. At the end of the day, right, if you really look at it, logistics is all about price and service. And innovation is key in order for us to give better service, right? Which is, of course, much more efficient logistics, faster delivery, and maybe one day, you never know, right? Maybe teleportation of some sort, I don't know. But of course, the best possible service at the right price, right? That is essentially what logistics is all about. And innovation in this space is absolutely important. And we have invested in a team of data scientists. We have invested in a team of product and tech to come up with optimization algos, dispatching algos, things that would actually make us compete, right, with the traditionals, right, and win against the traditionals, definitely.
So it is an indispensable part of your journey. That's what he's saying. Innovation.
Absolutely.
You really can
innovation.
Move forward.
Yeah, I wanted to say that innovation, the fact that we're digital native is essentially the DNA of our company.
Wonderful. What's been the role of innovation in your own journey with Common Ground?
So innovation in general?
What's the role of innovation, let's say more specific to Common Ground?
Right. So, I mean, okay. So for us, I mean, innovation is an interesting word, right? And it's a word that probably gets thrown around a lot more than it should. But it's also something that's really important. It's just sort of how you direct that energy, right? For us, I think, the key to our use of innovation has been at Common Ground, at least, has been, we know very well that co-working is not a new model, right? I mean, we copied the model, as most businesses in Southeast Asia do, right? I mean, I would be hard pressed to kind of find a genuine innovator out of Southeast Asia at the moment. That's nothing, there's nothing wrong about that.
Absolutely.
But we know that, right? But where we've spent a lot of time innovating is that, building the product and building the value proposition and localizing the value proposition is super important to success. So for us, a lot of time in innovating is spent figuring out, hey, how do we make this better? How do we make this better for Southeast Asia? How do we make this better for the markets that we're working in? Let's spend time innovating that and innovating the product towards that, not necessarily coming up with a brand new product on its own. And that's how we've engaged with innovation, how we typically do that, and a lot of sort of the other business I've been doing.
Makes a lot of sense. And I suppose some of the biggest successes pretty much in any category is not necessarily from the original pioneer or innovator of that category. It's always people that pick up from that and probably customize it better, or either localize it better or make it more relevant, and so on. What is your formula for success, Sissy, for your company? Do you have this secret sauce? And what would that be?
Okay. Probably there's a few things that I can think of. Is first, probably summarize in 5E. First E is exposure. Like I mentioned, the standard. Who are you benchmarked with? The store, like I mentioned, the retail store that we benchmark, Apple store that want to do it. When we talk about culture, we benchmark the supports that we go over. I go through to Las Vegas to see how people are running the culture. So I think the exposure is very important. Then the second is about the exchange. They're always brainstorming with other people from the different industry, including our team. They're always brainstorming how we can actually apply it in our own industry. The second E. And the third one is always about the experience. Always thinking about what experience at the end of the day people will get. And the number 4 is about execution. How we can actually continue our journey. Because when we actually benchmark in the best one, there's a long journey for us to execute phase by phase and step by step to move forward. I think the execution become very important. Then at the end of the day, you will get your end result. So this is something probably that I can share, the 5E: exposure, exchange, experience, execution, and you get your end result by the end of the day.
I think that's very clear. Looks like you almost you don't just have a formula, you have a framework for success. And what about you, Nadhir? What is your secret sauce?
I think for us, we still have not achieved what we want to achieve, right? I think not yet. I don't see ourselves as a success yet. However, in order for us to get here, right, 7 years in running, I guess decent exposure as well as market share, I would say it's perseverance, right? Perseverance. I think it's all about not giving up, right? Not giving up, and when the going gets tough, the tough gets going, kind of thing. So my message to all entrepreneurs listening and watching, when the odds are stacked against you, when you think that there's no light at the end of the tunnel, just trust me, just persevere, just tahan a bit more. I'm pretty sure something good will happen to you.
Your response is quite refreshing because you said you don't have a formula yet. That means you're still cooking, your sauce, and that's a very refreshing perspective on success. Do you have a recipe for success? Having been an investor, which is sitting on the other side of the table, having been, let's say, an entrepreneur multiple times, what is your recipe for success? Is there one? Would you like to prescribe it to the entrepreneurs and lot of the young aspiring guys who want to set up a business watching this?
I think that it's all an odds game. So there's nothing that's ever going to guarantee you success. But there are things that you can do that I think increase your chances for success. And if you play the odds long enough, then theoretically you should get a few wins in there. That's always the way that I've looked at it. If you're winning 30%, 40% of the time, that's actually a pretty good average in the entrepreneurial world. But that also means that you're losing 70% of the time, right? So you got to kind of view it in that perspective, I think is important. But if there's anything that I try to live by in terms of guiding light and principle, it's always about value. No one's going to ever do anything outside of their own self-interest. So you need to be bringing something to the table at any part of that equation, right? So whether that's a customer talking to a client-customer relationship, or landlord, investor, all of these vested parties, they want something out of it. No one's ever going to be doing this stuff just because they want to, or they find it fun, right? They want something out of it. So you need to have that in mind long before you have that conversation, right? And then try to bring that to the table, because there's no point in walking into a meeting talking about all the things that you want if you haven't thought about what's in it for the other guy. And so that's kind of how I've always approached things. It's done me well, because I get, I guess it allows me to anticipate a little bit some of the conversations that you're going to have, and try to play it out to other people's favor, and anticipate that side of the equation.
That's a very practical and grounded response. I'm glad you didn't rush to give out a formula or framework for success. You kind of put it in more practical terms here. We are truly grateful for this amazing exchange of insights. Thank you very much. And I'd like to now pass this over to Rizal so that we could conclude this in a few minutes. Once again, thank you very much.
All right, guys, I hope you got a lot of value in terms of understanding the importance of innovation to Malaysia, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, and of course, all those juicy stories from Dato, Sisi, Erman, and Nadhir about their whole journey in entrepreneurship. I'd also like to thank Karthik for moderating the session. Now let's start our next agenda by introducing the man himself, Gopi Ganesalingam, the Vice President of Tech Ecosystems and Globalization at MDEC. And Gopi, I'd like to hear more about your thoughts on what is innovation in Malaysia.
Thank you. Thank you for reaching out. Very quickly, I think innovation is very important, particularly now. If you look at the pandemic and how fast, the pandemic worldwide has been noted to be the chief transformation officer. And what this means is it's all about innovation. It's about always consistently innovating, disrupting yourself, disrupting your own market. So innovation is a very important factor in ensuring that we produce globally competent companies. If you look at Uber is a disruptor, but then Grab disrupted Uber. So you've got to keep disrupting ourselves. So innovation is so vital in the way we think, in the way we build our businesses, in the way we produce talent, in the way we raise money. Even in raising money, we have alternate funding now. And all this comes back to innovation. So we should be a society that is fully innovative all the time without taking a break.
Thanks, Gopi. Now over to you, Karthik, and I want to hear a bit about what you think about innovation.
Innovation is nothing but solving customer problems, as simple as that. It's a new way of solving an old problem, or a new way of solving a new customer or stakeholder problem. That's as simple as innovation gets. Is Malaysia innovative? This is a question I sometimes get, and quite frankly, it surprises and even shocks me. Malaysia, in my opinion, is a very innovative country. I'm not a Malaysian. I've lived for many years in Malaysia. And quite frankly, wherever you look in Malaysia, if you really look with your eyes open, you will actually see innovation. I see innovation in the batik textiles. I see innovation when it comes to product development and design. I see innovation when it comes to the architecture in Malaysia, when it comes to even urban planning across the many cities in Malaysia. I see innovation when it comes to restaurants. I see innovation when it comes to sports. I see innovation when it comes to technology. Quite frankly, I can keep going on and on when it comes to Malaysian innovation. Now, this is one of the very important reasons why the Global Entrepreneur Exchange has created this platform and initiative called Innovation Stories. The purpose of Innovation Stories is to showcase and celebrate the journeys and stories of innovators in Malaysia, because there are so many of them across the length and breadth of Malaysia and across pretty much all the races and ethnic groups in Malaysia. And that's really what Innovation Stories is all about.
Thanks, Gopi and Karthik. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Malaysian Innovation Stories.
To me, innovation is being creative about solving a problem and finding new ways of doing things.
Okay, innovation to me, I think is something that's actually something creative and actually way a lot forward.
How I see innovation is when you try to solve a very traditional, a very particular problem in a very unique way.
I feel is moving with the time.
So whenever there's problems, whenever there's inefficiencies, therein lies the opportunity for innovation.
You know, Malaysians have this sense, like a natural, innate sense of business.
Malaysian, we can actually adapt things very easy.
Because we're so different, I think it is easier for us to accept different ways of doing things.
How important do I think it is? I think it's massive, because I think we need to find the next thing that's going to keep us moving.
Because at the end of the day, innovation drives entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship drives further levers of the economy, like for instance, jobs.
I think that through innovation, Malaysia's diverse cultures, the ones that are dying and the ones that don't get enough screen time, will become very much more alive. This is Malaysia.
This is Malaysia.
This is Malaysia.
This is innovation.
This is innovation.
This is innovation.
Sit back.
And be inspired.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone there for that gripping discussion on Malaysian innovation market and the innovation stories. We will now be moving forward to our next session of the day. It will begin shortly at 11 a.m. Do click join session and also complete the survey for each session for us to continuously serve you better. See you in a bit.